But to kick us off, I guess I'd better tell you a couple of acquisitions we've made for our museum out here. And I can't appear on television without my famous Aussie hat. Okay, but the first thing I'm going to show you is not actually Australian. This one here, can you see the nice black lines with the forks coming up here? Well, that's a tassel fern or a lycopod. They're still here today. They're usually nowhere near as big as in the rocks. Now, I got that rock at Falls Creek in the US of A. Now, it used to be an old coal mine. And when I went up there with one of the guys from the Tennessee Division of Geology, we had free access. And of course, then the coal industry died and most of those old coal mines were abandoned. And then they found new ways to dig things up and they were threatening to open up the coal mines again. So all of a sudden, the pro-green people brought in legislation not to ban coal mining, much more subtle, these USA greenie politicians. They declared the whole area as a national historical site. So number one, you couldn't dig a new coal mine. Number two, yours truly, and even Dr. Glenn, we were there one day when one of the rangers came and told us we shouldn't be collecting fossils along the Falls Creek Road and the old coal mines. So where we used to take field trips, well, we used to get fabulous fossils. All the kids would go away with great fossils like this, and you could talk about several things. One is you could say lycopods are still here. We call them tassel ferns today because they have little tassels that hang over. Pretty little things. In fact, they used to be famous because you could shake the tassel and out of there would come ultra microscopic little, almost look like pollen, little spores, and it would float on water. And it turned out to be a wonderful indicator of a surface, whereas otherwise you couldn't actually tell where the surface of the liquid or the invisible glass type surface was. So we used to use it for marking surfaces. But that's because today they're so tiny. Now, in this last couple of weeks, I've managed to gain, let's see if you can spot this one. Can you see the black bit there coming up? Now, this is a rather famous fossil. I've been trying to get my hands on some more of these for ages. If you go down to a place called Yea in Victoria, there's a creek there, and you can actually excavate these, and they've got the fancy name of Baragnathia longifolia. By the way, they turn out to be exactly the same sort of plant as this one, except here's what they're famous for. When I was a student, Baragnathia longifolia was regarded as the oldest plant on the planet. Oldest land plant on the planet, because all the lycopods today grow on the land. They need at least some sort of substrate that's moderately moist but moderately dry and above water, or they won't grow. But here's the puzzle. You see all of these ones? These are found in marine mud. Now, when I say marine, you can find sea creatures in there, and it creates a bit of a puzzle. And so the geologists in Victoria, because this is where Yea is, have declared, number one, this used to be the oldest land plant known. The creatures, somehow plants had crawled out onto the land, blown out on the land, got washed up on the land, whatever, and they managed to take root and they began to colonize the land. But what happened was after that, they were washed out to sea. Why? They get washed out to sea because the bacteria, the microscopic creatures that disintegrated plants and recycle them, hadn't evolved enough yet. So there's plenty of dead Baragnathias lying around, washed out to sea, buried, and that's why we've got them as fossils. Now, I don't know about you, but since the whole of Victoria, repeat, the whole of Victoria is essentially marine deposits, I'm not very convinced by that argument. And secondly, here in creation research, look up some of our programs on the fossil thorns we found in Tennessee in Ordovician limestone. You heard me correct. Yes, the Ordovician limestone is another marine washed in deposit, but washed in with it are land plants with thorns on. And yes, I know they're Sordonia, and yes, I have taken them to one of the world experts, and yes, he has agreed that's Sordonia, but then he did the funniest thing. You can't have got these out of Ordovician rocks because land plants hadn't evolved until the next couple of levels up. Well, the trouble with creation research is we stick with the facts. And the facts are we have land plants which are older than these ones. We have land plants which on the evolutionary system are older than these ones. Now, that's the evolutionary logic. You see, the Bible says, in the beginning, God commanded the earth to bring forth plants. Not 100 million years after creation, not even 50 million years after creation, but on the third day, when he raised up the dry land and there's soil already prepared before the lunch break. Yes, you heard me correct. Can I encourage you? Because I'm going to read from this book in a moment. This book has got a biblical history of plants. Oh, by the way, the biblical history is not a scientific theory. We don't even pretend that it is. The biblical book is a history based on the words of the God who was there. Did you catch that? Whereas the evolutionary theory is based on the words of the scientists who weren't there when they actually find these, and then they have to come up with all sorts of stories as to why you find abundant land plants in marine deposits. Well, you see, the Bible's got an interesting clue about that, and the first geologists took notice of it. There was a big flood that covered the whole world.